Bat music.
He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Hello, and welcome once again to Bat Minute Returns, the podcast where we access the protected files of Tim Burton's 1992 Batman sequel, Batman Returns, 1 minute at a time. I am one of the hosts, Niall McGowan.
And joining as the host that the ladies love, and the men have no complaints either, it is I, John Parker.
And once again, we are joined today by a special guest.
Hello, hi. I have returned.
Yeah, much like the titular Batman. Clarisse Loughrey is, sorry, is Loughrey or Loughrey? I wanted to get that right, probably.
It's Loughrey, you got it right.
Loughrey, oh, there you go.
I was about to do like a small applause. Golf clap, golf clap.
There you go, acclaimed film cricket, Clarisse Loughrey.
Oh, I love it.
I love that. It makes me sound like Jiminy. I'll just sit on people's shoulders and be like, hey, did you hear the Black Klansman's really good?
That sounds like that'd be pretty handy, though, to be fair.
I will be anyone's film cricket.
Plus, you get to wear a pretty switch top hat, so this is only way is up, really.
The only way is up.
Yeah, today we're here to talk about minute 26 of Batman Returns. Minute 26 begins with Selina Kyle feeling insulted, and it ends 1 minute later with Selina Kyle getting a compliment? I'll just dig straight in here. This is a thing I've had to observe from women I know online. This reaction here to Selina Kyle's been... This answering machine message is basically advertising to her some sort of beauty product, whatever it is. And then the thing that it does have this business of like, oh, women love it and the men have no complaints either. And she has this very sort of like disgusted, like, oh, for God's sake. Yeah. The hate's been sort of pandered to in that regard, like, oh, as a woman, you should be wanting to get a man, right? Like that's the kind of vibe I got from her volatile.
Yeah. And especially down to the like smell, which is just so on the bottom of anyone's concern.
Oh, yeah. So it's slipped my mind there. It's Gotham Ladies Perfume. Yeah, the thing is, though, because, as a man, to be fair, I also do have an ad blocker a lot on my social media. But there's a girl I know on Twitter, and she constantly is complaining about the targeted ads thrust her way by Twitter, but things that the algorithm believes that she should be interested in. She's saying she gets a lot of stuff about like Wonder Bras and stuff like that. Yeah. And apparently when she was in her late 20s, a lot of pregnancy stuff. They were constantly thrusting. And she's like, I'm not interested in having a family. But they were constantly telling like, oh, you get the discounted pregnancy. Yeah, this and that.
All
this sort of stuff.
That is, I think.
Yeah, and she was frequently complaining about it. And as a maybe because I got the ad blocker on, and maybe because I'm a guy, like my targeted ads are just like, you looked at a t-shirt once. Here's that same t-shirt you didn't buy. Been thrusted back into your to make sure you buy it eventually.
Yeah, I think algorithms think I'm like a 12-year-old boy, so I just get a lot of video games, so it's okay.
That's ideal. That's perfect.
Yeah, I don't mind my targeted ads actually.
I'm trying to think if I really get a lot of them. It's mostly just t-shirts for me as well, actually. Yeah, it's all stuff from Redbubble, basically.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's always Redbubble. They must have a monopoly on the social media train.
They've got a file on me and you.
If you go on Redbubble like once, if you click on Redbubble, then you will never be left alone.
Yeah. They come around your house, the crack of dawn, they knock on your door, they're trying to get in, or is this just me?
Just like waving a Rick and Morty t-shirt outside the window, be like, do you want this?
I'd be like, no, everybody wears a Rick and Morty shirt, I don't want one, go away. But Selina's not buying this perfume, is she? She's not going for that at all. She hates all the advertising, the marketing. Ugh, leave it be. But then we hear she's left herself a message.
This is a thing if I didn't have a way of, well, I basically do constantly email myself to remind me of things. So this is pretty much a tactic I would have done back in 92.
Yeah, because I use Google Inbox, the Inbox app, and you can just set a reminder. Like at the moment, there's a reminder on here for me to get things ready for work tomorrow, and download the new free Xbox games. Things like that have all popped up. And I find that very useful. And I use Google Keep, so I'll keep they're like digital Post-its. I can't live without these two apps. So I get this.
I may have done this at some point before, like early 2000s. I feel like I had phoned myself before to set a reminder. So
That's cool.
I get you, Selina. It's cool.
But I've never owned a physical answering machine. Like, I've had the ones that are built in the phones, but like an actual going home and this whole experience of having an answering machine and you click and rewind back, like a physical tape in the machine and stuff, just before my time, I think. Before the time I would have had my own phone, because it was like
quite
American.
American.
Like Bloomer 2. America, I don't know, but I can imagine you get them. And it was before my time. I can't speak to that. So.
No, you did get them here, but I don't know. I always associate. Maybe it's just because a lot of the movies I watch are like early 80s. I associate it more with America. They seem to be more on the ball with that kind of thing. Whereas I saw like one person here with one.
I feel like it's so much harder to do murders now because that was always. I feel like answering machines. I always associate with somebody coming in to change the tape, which now you can't do that. It's so much harder to do a murder because you can't just go in and erase the message going, "Hey, baby, I need you to come here at this particular time so I can not murder you."
No, completely innocent.
To do. We need to have a talk about something that will end with not bloodshed.
Goddamn technology making it harder to murder.
I feel now though there's like some detective who's been like sitting on a case since like the mid 90s, and now he's figured out. It's like, oh my god, it was like a 10-year-old Clarisse Loughrey committed all these murders.
She changed the tape.
Yeah, she had to stop in the mid 2000s because the technology evolved. Just going to Reddit then, the subreddit of just like, isn't it really hard to do murders nowadays? Like, it used to be so much easier when I was a kid.
What's the deal with murders?
A murdering child. Oh, this is dark. I'm sorry.
Good. It's a dark movie. It demands dark.
This is why I relate so much to Selina Kyle. I feel like she'd make these kinds of jokes.
Yes,
she'd call
she
herself
would.
A murdering child. I also feel like she'd be the kind of person on Twitter that would tweet something and then 2 hours later would delete it when it just...
Yes, I hate that.
That's it. I'm stunned nowadays, like in proper news stories, the amount of times I see the words "in a now deleted tweet." Like, that's frequent every day. That's in a news story now.
Or at the very least, in a controversial tweet.
Yeah. We'll also note as well, just like the minor attention to detail, they do have Gotham Yellow pages there at the side. I just thought it was a nice little. It's a simple thing, but it's like, that's someone put in the effort to do that. So,
well, it's the little touches like that make it. I think you need to pay attention. Don't just put any old crap there. That sells it to me instantly.
And then we have all these fluffy toys. So we got like a cat. Is it a rabbit or a dragon at the top? It's like a pink, jazzy looking sort of fluffy something, and then it's a bunch of fluffy toys. Like,
I can't place any of them but the cat.
Well, there's that weird pink teddy bear thing that they kind of.
Yeah, that looks terrifying.
It does. It has a weird face. That thing. And it reminds me of the clown bed that Homer builds Bart in that one episode of this. That could in itself be a Batman villain of just like this Catwoman's teddy bear at one point came to life. They get revenge for her future putting them all down the garbage disposal.
Actually, I just realized we didn't say what was on the Ants Machine message. It's semi-important. Because she's basically...
I thought you meant the perfume one. I was like, we covered that.
No, her one to herself. Because what does she do? She's leaving herself a message about work, about the Bruce Wayne file. Because does she need to get it out and give it to Shrek? Is that the way around it is? Because what's he doing looking into Bruce Wayne?
I think it's they do mention something here about she just needs to have the files prepared for a Bruce Wayne meeting.
Yeah.
Because I believe she says later this minute or the next minute that to look into his hopeful investment. So he's supposed to be investing in this power plant.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Well, that's the thing, though. Like, I guess we, I guess we kind of see a version of this meeting later on in the movie. But you do wonder if Bruce Wayne has put himself up as an investor in the power plant, or was Shrek just like, oh yeah, we'll go to someone, go to Bruce Wayne. He knows this stuff, or he's got money, or is Bruce Wayne like, this guy's up to something, I'm gonna have a meeting with him? Because it could have been like he could have sent like a representative of the board, like the Wayne Enterprises board. Bruce Wayne himself didn't need to be there. But is he like, no, I want to meet with Max Shrek to see what the deal is with this power plant that he's, because we have as noted earlier in the movie, there is a power surplus in Gotham. So maybe he's just like, this guy's weird. He's got weird hair, and he always dresses in really cool but kind of weird suits. So I think something's up with him. Like I've encountered guys who dress in kind of weird but cool suits before, and one of them's gassed the whole friggin' city. So,
oh, and me.
But you haven't met Bruce Wayne.
Well, haven't I? Prove it.
Yeah. That could have been just like you just left the podcast there. Just like, haven't I? Just hearing your chair creak as you walk away. It's like, oh, John's gone.
Please edit in a chair creak and a silence.
Or just the sound of a mic dropping.
But we see here she's forgotten to get the Bruce Wayne file, so she's screwed up at work again, unfortunately. Which, with Shrek, it's probably not something you want to keep doing. So she gets really angry at herself and throws her shoe, which I do on a daily basis, I think.
I once saw some guy throw a shoe in public. At one point, I remember in university, someone had lent someone like a USB pen drive. It was like, oh yeah, make sure you, because it used to be a whole big thing. Like you had to properly take it out of the port. There was a little thing you had to do like about 10 years ago. Nowadays, you can just yank them out. It doesn't matter. But like back then, it's like, oh yeah, you could lose all the information on them if you didn't take them out properly. I remember some guy saying the guy I lent it to took it out of the computer improperly, and the other guy was just like, what? Took off his shoe in the middle of the library and threw it across the room at him, which was
oh my god,
yeah, left the mark. Yeah,
I thought you were going to say
that guy's going to do so well in the apocalypse because he went straight like, what weapon do I have on me? Shoe. He's gonna be the king of his little desert kingdom.
That could be even like a new Walking Dead character, someone who slays the zombies with a shoe on a elasticated string.
I mean, Walking Dead must be running other stuff by now.
It would improve the show for me. I've not watched for a few years now, a couple of years, so that would get me back on board.
But yeah, we also do get the return of a corn dog. It's like I remember saying like, oh yeah, she does that earlier in the movie. It comes up in the script quite a bit. The original Dan Waller's draft of the script comes up quite a bit. But yeah, you get a brief return of the stupid corn dog. But again, though, Clarisse, you grew up in America, right? Or you spent some time there. So we have never properly had an actual corn dog. Have you had a corn dog? Can you speak to their quality?
Oh yeah, no, they're amazing. You can get them in the UK. You have to go to the right American style diner, but they are heavenly and delicious. It's kind of like a hot dog, but with a bit of the cornbread sweetness to it. So
yeah, that's perfect. Also, really, I say that I'm a vegetarian, but you know,
I'm sure you could get a veggie version. It's more about the cornbread than the sausage part. Like a hot dog.
Well, a hot dog sausage isn't really meat anyway, is it?
Yeah, it's like plastic. So
yeah.
Although when you said you can get them in the UK, I made a mental note to put in an edit of the sound effect of two chairs creaking and me and John walking out of the room to go get them.
Yes, do it.
Yeah, and also because it's on a stick, so you could just bring them back, continue to do the podcast.
I'm going to ruin your life now. I have had one.
What?
Yes, in Hong Kong, I had one. And it was, I assume it was the same as the American one. It's how they were described to me via the media. So I'm assuming, and it was very nice. So thank you, Hong Kong, for stealing American food and doing it well. Well, we steal all your food and ruin it, so I apologize.
But talking about the original script, though, there is a little omission here that I think for the better, really. There's supposed to be a bit where, in her hurry to leave the apartment, Selina Kyle shoots the answering machine with that taser. What's it called? Taser. Taser. I should have called that clown Taser. That would have been a great name.
That'd be a great B movie.
Yeah, but she's supposed to. I think they were thinking at that point it was supposed to be rather than a stun gun, it was an actual taser that shoots out the little things, and she blows up her answering machine with that. But they did have her sitting looking at it meaningfully, because again, Chekhov's taser. Like, just make sure you know she has that taser, because it might come up again later, maybe. Oh. Not for a while, like another 2 hours time. You better go, oh yeah, remember she had that taser. But
2 hours for the moviegoers, about 2,000 hours for us recording this show.
Be like next February we'll be recording those minutes. We're like, what the hell's this taser she's got? Where did this come from?
Just have to keep bringing the taser up at regular intervals.
It's the only way.
We should do like the Godfather minutes. They've got countdowns to certain scenes, so they have like leading up to the take the gun, leave the gun, take the cannoli. That scene, they've been building up to it for so long that they actually got a countdown every episode with a real like a song, like a real like countdown, guns and cannoli, countdown, won't be seeing Polynome. So we should be doing that, just like get those guys in to write us a song, and it'd be like, taser, when's the taser coming?
I am on board. I fully support this.
Just give a little update at the end of each episode to be like, what's the taser up to now? Where is it? Is it sitting in the basket in her apartment? Is it in her handbag?
Oh, yeah.
So looking up at the stars.
Not to actually get ahead of ourselves too much, because again, we will be talking about this like way at the end of the movie, but like, where would she keep the taser? Because she's that cat suit. There's no pockets in that.
Oh,
if there was, you don't.
Oh no.
Yeah, so that must be like maybe much like Chris Walken in Pulp Fiction. She had to transport that taser in a very unfortunate place.
Well,
Catwoman.
No.
That's just a whole scene of like before she takes out the taser to Max Schreck, where she's having to like reach into the back of her cat suit and rummage around.
Just the worst sound effects you've ever heard.
See, I was going to be a lot less vile. I was just going to say, I don't even know where she'd keep it with most of her outfits, because women's clothes never have pockets. For some stupid reason, do they?
This is the thing I've only really heard about a lot recently, and it baffles me. It's like, why wouldn't... I'm assuming it's because it needs to fit a certain way and stuff like that.
I think it's the cut, yeah.
Yeah, but it's just like, because I get angry where we do occasionally get, like, a man will occasionally buy a jacket that'll have, like, show pockets, and then you can't open them properly.
It's
infuriating. Like, what the hell is this? It's like every item of clothing should have a pocket on it. That's just a thing that should be happening all the time. But
I think it's the handbag industry coming knocking on people's doors being like, don't you dare put pockets in those trousers.
Maybe the handbag companies rule the fashion world. They secretly own everything.
The thing is, I can imagine Max Schreck would have his finger in that pie as well. Like, beyond the power plant, he's like, oh, we got all those new women's dresses with no pockets in them. And then they release them coinciding with matching handbags. This is a great idea. Speaking of Max Schreck, we cut now to the establishing shot of Shrek's department store. Movie, much like the first Batman movie. Remember, we kept talking frequently about how much they'd frame elements in it to be a bit like a horror movie, where like, Batman sneaking up on people and stuff. This is kind of like Halloween or something now. These shots of Selina, nosing into the protected files. Oh, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. We do see an even kind of creepier shot.
Yeah, I thought this is what you were going to talk about. Yeah, because I think he looks like Nosferatu. And he's called Shrek. That was the vibe I got. Not as far where he would be doing the hands, but he's walking in that similar kind of fashion. Not as exaggerated, but I think it's deliberate.
Yeah, there's definitely, there's something vampiric about him.
It wouldn't shock me if he just was a vampire in this movie.
See, I got a kind of vibe, though, of like, because of the very nice, like, black, shiny floor, And the way he's kind of emerging from that kind of like is like a creature from the Black Lagoon kind of vibe of like this, or even like the T-1000. Like it's like he's sort of, or like Principal Skinner crossing the stream in that one episode of The Simpsons. Where it's just
yes, one of my favorite things ever.
Just emerges from this black ooze on the floor. It's just like, yep, Shrek's back. Quite notably too, actually, that should note that in even up as far as the shooting draft. This scene, these past two scenes have been in completely different places in the film. Because like it goes in the shooting script, it goes from like Shrek making the deal with the penguin straight to the whole business with the baby and all that, the penguin rescuing the baby, and then everyone, hey, the penguin's here. And then I think the film goes on for like 20 minutes, and then they kind of remembered, oh yeah, we've got like Catwoman in this as well. Maybe we should put her in here somewhere. And then they kind of rush into all the Catwoman stuff later on. So at some point, obviously in the edit, they went like, oh no, it makes much more sense that this is Shrek coming back out from the sewers. Yeah, it's all the same night as the riots and all that business. It makes much more sense for these scenes to be here now.
Yeah, it definitely was a smart move to move them around. It would have been ages before well, as you said, you wouldn't remember what the hell was going on.
You barely remember Catwoman being in the movie. What chance does the taser have of like you're leaving it that long between sightings? But yeah, of course, we do get this shot of Selina here rifling through the files, and we see it from Shrek's POV, very Michael Myers-esque almost, sort of like he's. And the thing is, too, completely justified, because turns out Max Shrek, he's not averse to murder when the glove fits. We'll also note as well, we get to seeing a little shot again of the creepy cat logo, a giant carpet of it on the floor, which is this decor almost akin to being as hideous as Selina Kyle's "Hello There" sign, but maybe not quite.
I don't know. It's very strange, isn't it? For his it doesn't fit the man. I don't think it doesn't suit him.
It's not very professional. The cat.
No, it's not. It's like a cartoon company.
You're like, oh, do you sell Beanie Babies? I'm not. What's going on here?
Yeah, you get the impression. I mean, he owns a department store. That's about as close as he would get to that kind of thing, which isn't very close. It seems like quite a high-end department store.
And you're trying to buy a wedding dress that's got a little tiny cat face staring at you.
Now, I would marry anyone with that.
The thing is, it's such a needlessly creepy sign as well. It's not like a nice, happy, inviting cat. It's like, I'm assuming what the reference is they're going for is that this is supposed to be like the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland, which is, because Selina Kyle's about to go tumbling down a rabbit hole here in the next couple of minutes. But okay, yeah, we could keep an eye on that, though. Like, is this supposed to be like a bizarre retelling of the story of Alice in Wonderland, where Selina Kyle's about to enter a strange new world and become her own? That's the thing. Like, it depends on your interpretation of Alice in Wonderland, I guess. Of like, because I guess the original story is just inherent nonsense. So it's kind of making a comment on society at large, but.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's much development of Alice as a character throughout it.
She's just kind of a brat who eats everything in sight and is rude to people. Which I thought was always his point of that book. Is apparently this is a giant, but apparently he wrote that book essentially to make fun of the other professors at Oxford. So everybody who's in it is just like a jab at somebody he knew.
That's hilarious, though. I think that's genius.
Just to write a book out of spite. And it just happens to become a literary classic.
That's the power of hate.
I think I actually had a thing on Facebook the other day that reminded me of like a thing I shared or I wrote years ago about, because, Lewis Carroll's actual name was Charles Dodson. And it was like, oh, I really wish they would do a biopic of Lewis Carroll and then have like Wayne Knight play his publisher. And then they could have a scene where like he's coming in, he's giving him all these books that has Lewis Carroll written on it. And he's like, I don't want anyone to know that I'm Charles Dodson. And then Wayne Knight's just like, Dodson, we got Dodson here. See, nobody cares. And just be like a little throwback to Jurassic Park that I would love. And the rest of the cinema will be like, oh, why is Wayne Knight playing this guy's agent? It's horrible.
Why is this guy laughing his ass off at the back?
But though, again, we would be remiss as well if we didn't point out the fact, like, oh, there's a little Alice in Wonderland Cheshire Cat thing here. Who would go on to direct Alice in Wonderland? Or would go on to, quote-unquote, direct a, quote-unquote, movie adaptation of Alice in Wonderland.
Heart hurts.
Don't remind me.
Really painful to talk about, so.
I have not watched the second one.
Don't do it.
But I couldn't bring myself to do it. No.
No. The thing is, I would almost go and watch the Cheshire Cat scenes of the first one just to see if at any point does Tim Burton do a nod to this Shrek cat face. Like, does it look exactly like that for like a split second or something? Just to see if he would. But I can't imagine Tim Burton might be at this point, but like, oh yeah, that's right, I did do a cat thing way back when. Oh,
totally forgot.
Yes, well, whatever.
Yeah. I think he was so tired making Alice in Wonderland that he probably just forgot every movie he ever made. It's like, right, get the big green screen in. Just, Helena, do you want to scream a bit? Okay, let's go. I'm done.
Oh, it's such a shame. I think I've said this on the show before. He seems like the perfect person to make that. In theory, on paper.
I have to say, I was the most excited about a big blockbuster ever. That didn't make sense in English, sorry. The most excited I've ever been about a giant blockbuster was Alice in Wonderland, because when I was a teenager, I was just a huge Tim Burton fan. I was all over it. And then Alice in Wonderland has always been one of my favorite books. And so it was just felt like this like holy union. I thought I would see the face of God watching this movie. And
well, almost.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest disappointments of my life, which is saying a lot. Is watching Alice in Wonderland and going, oh. And I remember coming out and trying to make the best of it. And I was saying to my friend, I was like, well, some of the costume design was really great. I really liked the costume design. Let's just talk about the costume design. Don't mention the big Jabberwocky. Let's never speak of that again. It's just.
Wait, are you saying you didn't like to watch Johnny Depp dancing in CGI?
I think at that point though, I had already been broken. But I think I had my kind of trying to rationalize things with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where I walked out of that and like, I mean, I didn't like a lot of that, but look at that, there was pretty cool designs in there and stuff. And then by the time Alice in Wonderland came around, I was just like, oh, let's just see what you got. And then just afterward, been like, nah, I ain't doing it for me, man. It's the fact that they introduced any element of plot into it. It's the fact that like Wonderland was called Underland, and it had like a sense of order about it and stuff. And it's like, I don't think you know what Wonderland's supposed to be, man. Like, it's...
Why change it? Why would you change the name of the thing that it is? It's like, we're gonna make Lord of the Rings, but Mordor's gonna be called Mordon.
Mordon.
It just makes no sense.
See, I always got the vibe, though, with Tim Burton, is like, I think he wanted to do, like, a Wizard of Oz movie. And he couldn't get the rights to it or something. So he just made, Alice in Wonderland's a bit like that. And he just made that instead. And that's why a lot of this stuff was like, I could kind of understand it if it was like a Wizard of Oz movie. But, like, you know, I can understand that this world having a functioning hierarchy and whatnot, and the people not just talking incessant nonsense at him or at Alice as she's walking through.
Hey.
Which is supposed to happen, but no, well.
There's ways of making your own Wizard of Oz movie without doing so you don't need the rights. Wild at Heart.
Yeah.
Most of that is Wizard of Oz, believe it or not.
What was it? Oz the Great and Powerful. That was a movie, right? James Franco and the hot air balloon. They made that. Why just Tim Burton? You should have gotten in on that deal.
He could have got the rights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wicked exists. Still Wicked.
Yeah. They're apparently working on a film version of Wicked, because I've never seen the musical. And I thought, you know what, I'll catch the movie version. Then I found out, it's going to be like quite a while away. I think it's not imminent.
Yeah, I feel like that was 5 years ago that they were like, yes, Wicked, it's coming. And now we've all moved on to Hamilton. It's a bit like, no, I think they missed their shot.
It's the same with Hamilton, though. They said, oh, we're going to do a film version, but it's going to be at least 5 years or something. So it's like, oh, I probably won't care then.
Yeah, I can imagine with that, though. That could be like, we don't want a film to interrupt our ticket sales, because if everyone can just see the show, then what's the point of going to see? Like, it's still a point to seeing it live, obviously, but the fact that Hamilton's got this sort of like, it's at this status of like, you can't get tickets to this thing. It's so almost exclusive to get in to see Hamilton that, like, if they just made like, oh, here's a movie, they'll be like, oh, so everyone can see it. It would kind of take the shine off it a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But when they announced the Wicked movie, everyone was on Book of Mormon already. So I feel Wicked is... Nobody cares about Wicked anymore. I'm sorry. I'm speaking on behalf of all of Broadway. Nobody cares about Wicked.
It's much like it's like the Slender Man movie. It's like, we made a Slender Man movie. It's like, what was this, 2008? Come on.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Who's thinking about...
I thought the same with Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Yes.
They really missed the boat with that one.
Yeah. I forgot that was a thing.
That book was huge, like 2 or 3 years, 3 years maybe before the film came out.
But, oh well. That means, we're not Hollywood producers. We don't have to worry about not being hip with the kids. We're hip enough already. We are on the bubble. That's how.
Yeah, what's hipper than a podcast that goes minute by minute through old Tim Burton films? I wanted to commend Christopher Walken's acting here, as I like to on a daily basis, even when I'm not talking about Batman, because he has like a real threatening edge to him, even when he's not doing anything. Like just the way he acts, he holds himself, like the way he looks at Selina here is like, oh, it's creepy, but not in like a sexual way. It's just scary.
Well, he is a man of like, he is hoisting around a lot of authority. So I don't even know if he's intentionally trying to be scary with Selina. It's just the fact that you are aware of the fact that he is the big boss man and that she is inherently scared of him. Like, that's we have to deal with this now the next 2 minutes of like the relationship as it is with Selina Kyle and Max Schreck. Like, we saw a snippet of it when she was serving the coffee and stuff during the meeting. And she seemed very nervous and whatnot. And she tried to get in a suggestion and then was sort of like, beaten down by the chortles of the crusty old white men in the room and stuff. And I do question, like, what is exactly going on in her head in the scene, and what does she perceive her relationship with Max Schreck to be? Because she's nosing into these protected, she's looking into all the stuff here about these, the files that are relevant to this Bruce Wayne meeting and stuff. And then, not to skip too far ahead, but she talks about looking into the protected files. And it's very like, why would you tell him that? Because you're about to tell him that you've uncovered this James Bond villain scheme he's got going on, but you're kind of doing it in a very like, oh, la-di-da kind of way. And then 2, he's your boss. Those files are protected for a reason. Why would you tell him up front, I have hacked your protected files? Like it, and then is she doing this because, we saw her try to make a suggestion during the meeting? Does Selina Kyle have aspirations of being like part of the Shrek board or something? And is this why
she's blackmail him?
Not even so much that, as she's like, I want to get ahead. I don't want to be secretary anymore or assistant. I want to be a board member and stuff and contribute ideas and whatnot. And maybe she's going out. You could interpret this as she's just been nosy and looking into these files, or maybe she's like, I'm going to cover everything, so I'll really impress him because she wants to get ahead. Plus, maybe. Does she like Max Schreck? Does she admire him? Not in a sexual way, just as a man. Is she just like, oh, this is a self-made man who's big business, big shot business guy. I'm working for him. Maybe one day I can be at his level. What is the relationship between these two in this scene?
That's interesting. That's very different to the way I was seeing it. I like that. I think that's a really good thing to consider, because all I thought was much simpler. Like, she knows he's about to find out what she's done. Like, maybe she's left it up on the computer. She's going through these files here. He's going to figure it out any second now. Yeah. So it's kind of like, well, I'm going to break the news, but I'm going to let him know it's okay. Like, it's okay you're doing this. I'm on board. This is fine. This is cool. I'm not going to tell anyone. That kind of thing. Like, I'll go along with this scheme. It's a great idea for the company.
But I feel like that's her way in, is to be like, hey, I'm cool. You can trust me. And yeah, I kind of agree. I think it's her just because she's been so ignored and so put down that she feels like the only way she can get attention is by going way too far and like hoping it works out.
Which, I mean, you can't fault her for that attempt. It's a good idea. She doesn't know what a psycho he is, which you're about to find out soon.
But the real cincher for me, though, is it's at the very end of this minute, is when she's like, oh, and I actually opened the protected files, and he goes like, oh, how industrious. And she is spread out over the end of this minute and the beginning of the next one. But she does like a real beaming smile, like, oh, he's paid me a compliment. He's actually saying, oh, that's how industrious of you. You've actually done it.
She doesn't get what he means by that, though.
Yeah, she's not getting the implied threat of like, how industrious? What are you doing? Like, you're nosing into my business. This is industrious, right? So it could be that also that, like, the one who insulted, like, maybe Selina Kyle just ain't too bright as well, because she's not realizing, like, you shouldn't be telling him this, because this is the kind of thing you should be, like, keeping as secret as you possibly can, unless it's entirely just to be like, look what I've done. Look at how eager I am to get ahead. Don't you like someone who takes charge and stuff like this? Maybe it is. Maybe this is her version of, like, the old sort of thing of like, oh, if a man were to do this, maybe he would be like, oh, he's doing what he needs to do to get ahead. Whereas like if it's the secretary doing it, it's just like, what are you doing nosing into my business?
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's that. Because it makes sense for her. She's just so desperate at that point that she would do something stupid to try, like, please just listen to me. I'm trying not to be a corn dog. It's her attempt to not be a corn dog.
Probably is, yeah. I mean, because we did see how frustrated she was that she messed up. She didn't get the Bruce Wayne file. She didn't sort all that out. So she probably feels like, I'm gonna have to go all out here because I've made like a few mistakes in a row. So I'm gonna impress him.
That's the question I would have, though, about what is the standard of secretary for Max Schreck? Because usually you would see, like, weird billionaires, much like Bruce Wayne. He has an Alfred who has all the info he ever needs, and he's his most trusted employee, and he would, he's family to him and all this kind of stuff. And you get in, what do you call it, Phantom Thread, and has like Daniel Day-Lewis's, I think it's his sister in that, isn't it? Who's like very, very intricately dealing with all his business and stuff, and the most trusted person that he has his entire life. But as Max Schreck, as his version of a secretary, much again to bring up the Gilmore Girls, it's like Emily Gilmore's maids, where every episode she has a new maid because she fires them all the time. They never do anything to her standards. So is it like Selina Kyle is like that good that she's got up to the high position of being like a tip-top secretary for this guy? Or is it just that, like, oh, Max Schreck has a different secretary every week because he just goes, he either probably quite possibly harasses them, or like he just gets frustrated with them and fires them because they don't do things to his standards. Or
I get the sense she's not. Wait, because she doesn't say how long she's been there, does she? I get the sense she's not been there that long, like just enough to go crazy, but. I feel like, if she'd been there a really long time, she maybe would have learned some kind of coping method to deal with him. I don't know, yeah. I'd say like 6 months. Maybe.
I think the only indication we get of the length of time is when he says, we haven't quite housebroken Miss Kyle, which would indicate that maybe she just got there. Or maybe she'd been there like a month or thereabouts. But like, even that, though, it could just be he's just saying that. Like, it's just a thing to say. So...
That's such a demeaning thing to say to someone.
Oh yeah, totally.
Oh, about someone.
Of course, it's part of their whole relationship that like again could feed into why she has this real beaming smile now when he says things like that to about her while she's in the room, not to her but about her, like treating her as if she's not even really there. And then now he's actively paying her what she thinks is a compliment and stuff. And
Do you even housebreak cats? Or you housebreak dogs? You housebreak cats?
Yeah, well, my cat, I got her as a rescue cat, so I don't know for sure, but I don't think she ever had a home before. They got her from the street. She doesn't seem like she's ever lived with humans. But she instantly would use the litter box just because, oh, look, there's something I can use and bury it with. Cool.
that's just like John's cat, though. It's just like whenever he's saying things, like internally, he's going like, you don't know me, man. You don't know the things I've been through.
No, I know her. She's my daughter. You can't say these things.
But yeah, that's kind of like the action for this minute, though, is going to round it up with this little altercation between Selina and Max Shrek, which will sprawl out into the next minute. So, do either of you two have anything else you want to add to this particular minute?
No, I'm good.
No, I'm all good. I mean, we obviously know she's seeing things she's not supposed to, so I'm just excited to see what they are. Or hear what they are more than anything. But yes, we will depart. So Clarisse, once again, would you like to tell our good listeners where they can find you online and your good work?
Yes, on Twitter, Clarisse Loughrey at Clarisse Lou, and then on YouTube, that Darn Movie Show.
Much like the movie That Darn Cat, which ties into this because it's good.
That is, yeah. That's where it comes from, because I love that.
Aha, brilliant.
And it's always like, that darn cat.
Are you referring to the... Are you referring to like the Haley Mills version or the Christina Ricci Dougie Doug remake from the late 90s?
Oh no, Haley Mills forever.
Oh, okay.
I love Christina Ricci, but it's got to be the OG, that darn cat.
That's funny you say that. I have one very boring fact about Christina Ricci coming up in the next minute.
Oh my god! It's like what?
It's very boring.
So
make sure to tune in.
That doesn't get people tuning in to hear the boring Christina Ricci facts. I don't know what will.
Yeah. Now you're going to think. Now it's not going to be boring enough. It's going to be a letdown. It's going to be like, that was mildly entertaining. How dare you?
It's just like Christina Ricci was my ex-lover. And it's like, what?
Well, we all know that was very much the case.
And she was the one who sent that goose to attack you that time in the park that we found out a couple of weeks back.
Is this the third time this goose has come up on this podcast?
I can't stop thinking about that goose, John. I have this mental image of like this misty park and this silhouette of a goose is stepping out, and you just
That's basically
dropping all your bags and just like frozen in terror.
That's almost exactly how it went down as well. But anyway, on that note, everyone enjoy your Wednesday. We will be back on Friday with more Batman Returns. And if you want to message us in the meantime, get on our Facebook group. It's the Bat Minute Listeners Cave. And give us a review on iTunes, because that's a lovely thing to do. And you want to be a lovely person, don't you? You want to be nice. It's a nice thing to be nice. That's what we all are aspiring to, except for Max Shrek. So join us on Friday, where we will find out what Selina has seen in the files. Bye-bye.
Next time, a Hound of Hades. This clandestine conference continues, and conspirational contrivances are uncovered. But which stuffed mutt sobriquet will help circumvent Shrek's speech-based century? Find out Friday. Same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.